X-Men Apocalypse opens in ancient Egypt, where the first ever mutant called Apocalypse, played by Oscar Isaac, is betrayed by his followers and buried underground for several thousand years. And it happens about as casually as I just explained it.
It would end in disaster.
We then fast forward all the way to 1983. So, just to catch everybody up, we started with the original trilogy that spanned from 2000 to 2006, then we went back to 1845 through to 1979 in Origins, then back again to 1962 for First Class, then we skipped forward 50 or so years to 2013 for The Wolverine, then we went forward again to 2023 for Days of Future Past, which also takes place in 1973, and then we fast forward 10 years to where we are now. Are there any questions, boys and girls?
My child, why do you enslave yourself?
Anyway, the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters is finally up and running, even if no one's aged for the past 20 years. I mean, Xavier was 24 in First Class, which was set in 62, so now he's what, in his mid-40s? Damn, I want whatever the hell he's smoking. The school is welcoming some new but familiar faces, including Nightcrawler, played by Cody Smith-McPhee, Cyclops, played by Ty Sheridan. My god, he needs a better agent. Well, at least Cyclops has one eye now, right? Son of a bitch! It's in the name. It's in the name, guys. It's in the... Look! It's a unicorn!
You're a genius.
And the queen of no emotion herself, Jean Grey, now played by Sophie Turner, who, in the standard tradition of Jean Grey actresses, can't act to save her f***ing life.
That's not how he felt. He felt you were the one that was gonna do something special with your life.
Meanwhile, Apocalypse suddenly reawakens from his multi-millennia slumber and sets about recruiting 4 mutants to be his horsemen of the apocalypse. One of which is a recently bereaved Magneto, leading to the X-Men once again coming together to stop Apocalypse from destroying the world.
Again?
After the massive success of Days of Future Past, word got out that I actually enjoyed one of these f***ers, so Hollywood were like, well, we can't have that then. And another X-Men sequel was quickly greenlit, with Bryan Singer returning to direct, after being accused of rape. After. He was accused of rape, and then they hired him. Then again, Disney did purchase Fox, and they hired Brian Peck to work with kids after he was convicted, so...
What?
And Simon Kinberg once again writing the script. The filmmakers had also wanted to use the character of Apocalypse as a major villain for a while, but couldn't find a way to integrate him until now. They primarily based the story on the 1988 storyline The Fall of the Mutants, and said that the film would not only conclude the trilogy that was started with First Class, but would also introduce fresh blood into the franchise, thereby allowing it to continue. For the role of the titular villain, both Tom Hardy and Idris Elba were considered before Singer chose Oscar Isaac after seeing his performance in A Most Violent Year. Isaac was excited about taking on the role as he was a huge X-Men fan growing up, but he ended up having a terrible time making the movie. And likewise, we had a terrible time watching it.
Quite.
His character's costume was made entirely of rubber and prosthetics, which was not only extremely hot and uncomfortable, but it also limited his mobility and senses. He spent the entire shoot being barely able to move or hear. Apocalypse was excruciating. I didn't know when I said yes that was what was going to be happening. That was going to be encased in glue, latex, and a 40-pound suit. That had to wear a cooling mechanism at all times. I couldn't move my head, and I had to sit on a specially designed saddle because that's the only thing I could really sit on. I would be rolled into a cooling tent in between takes, so I just wouldn't ever talk to anyone. And then getting it off was the worst part because they just had to kind of scrape it off for hours and hours. On top of that, the latex parts of his costume were incredibly noisy and would squeak every time he moved, resulting in almost all of his dialogue having to be redubbed in post-production. I'm really sorry, Oscar, I know you had a terrible time, but that image is just hilarious.
Reach down. Feel the metal in the ground. Reach as deep as you can. You'll find you have the power to move the very earth itself.
Despite his awful experience, however, Isaac stated that while he wished the character had been handled better, he ultimately wasn't sorry that he did the movie, as he got to work with so many actors that he admired.
Extraordinary.
For the part of young Cyclops that isn't a Cyclops, Taron Egerton, Timothy Chalamet, Charlie Rao, Logan Lerman, Josh Hutcherson, Dylan O'Brien, and Jesse Plemons were considered before the casting of Ty Sheridan, whilst Ellie Fleming, Chloe Grace Moretz, Haley Steinfeld, Saoirse Ronan, Daisy Ridley, Lily Collins, Grace Caroline Curry, and Margot Robbie were considered for young Jean Grey, but they all put forth far too emotion. So they brought in Sansa Stark herself, Sophie Turner.
Should I say piss off?
X-Men Apocalypse was released on May the 27th, 2016, and though it grossed $543 million worldwide, it wasn't nearly as successful as Days of Future Past. On top of that, reviews were mixed to negative, many feeling that the franchise had run out of ideas and was just retreading old ground that had already been explored in the previous movies. And honestly, I can see why. Jean has nightmares about something terrible happening again. Cyclops demolishes his school with his powers again. Quicksilver saves everyone in slow motion whilst listening to a popular song again. Wolverine kills soldiers in a hallway again. Stryker attacking the mansion and kidnapping everyone again. Moira McTaggart helping the X-Men again. Nightcrawler saving everyone during a plane crash again. Magneto losing his family again. Jean becoming the Phoenix again. Xavier doing an open narration about how special mutants are for the 5th goddamn time! He even copy a scene from the first movie, line for line!
Oh, yes. Hope. Oh, yes. Your continuing search for hope.
Doesn't it ever wake you up in the middle of the night?
Doesn't it ever wake you in the middle of the night?
The feeling that one day they'll come for you.
The feeling that someday they will pass that foolish law and come for you.
And your children.
And your children.
It does indeed.
It does indeed.
What do you do when you wake up to that?
What do you do when you wake up to that?
I feel a great swell of pity for the poor soul that comes to my school looking for trouble.
I feel a great swell of pity for the poor soul who comes to that school looking for trouble.
They aren't even pretending to try anymore. And the movie still don't know how to put subtitles on their f***ing film. Haha, but I outsmarted you, movie. Yeah. I put English subtitles on for the entire movie this time. My point is you shouldn't have to. I'll give the film this much. The visuals at the start are pretty cool, and no matter how bad the movies get, they always nail the opening credit sequence.
As everyone knows, the existence of mutants was first discovered...
If they know, why are you telling them? It's almost as if you're aware that you're in a movie and you have to tell the audience as well. Either way, they do get a funny line every now and then.
Are you crying? I haven't even kicked your ass yet.
That's it. The film is poo-poo.
He won't listen to us. He's being...
Scott?
Don't worry, he'll die, nobody will care. And Scott gets really confused when a girl who literally just told him that she is telepathic knows his name. And he doesn't understand how. You're dumb. McAvoy still really nails it as Xavier. But tell me an American wrote the British dialogue without telling me that an American wrote the British dialogue.
Come on now, Spitspot, back to bed.
Ah, tally-ho, me old chum. Let's have some tea and crumpets. Pip, pip, cheerio. Why do they make him such a creepo in this?
I've had a husband, but it's hard to do this job and make it home in time for dinner.
Good.
And these movies really do need to quit trying to get us to give a shit about Jean. It's Jean! Yeah, enough about Batman. Tell us about Phil. I mean, a little girl gets hit by an arrow. Fair play, that's quite dark. I mean, it doesn't mean anything, and I don't really give a shit, but hey, it's a little girl getting hit by an arrow, so it is pretty dark, well done. Jennifer Lawrence looks completely bored out of her mind in these films. She never seems like she actually wants to be there. Granted, she wasn't exactly Meryl Streep in the previous two, but she's not even pretending to care in this one. She's awful.
Why do you care so much? You see a speech on TV or something?
Which is a shame, because other than her and Jean, everyone else is acting their asses off. Because Fassbender is actually incredible in this. He's amazing. I don't care about the characters, but still, he's amazing.
What do you want?
For this franchise to end. At least the soundtrack is pretty sick. They get a sick guitar solo in there. There is a surprisingly cool scene where Xavier speaks with Magneto and even gives him some pity, and the acting from both sides is fantastic. McAvoy and Fassbender are far better than these movies deserve. We get some more of Quicksilver, who is still great, and he's hilarious. Except Scott's brother dies in that house and he doesn't seem to care. Like, he's sad briefly and then moves on. Why does nobody care when anyone in the Summers family dies? And just when I was starting to get worried, Hugh Jackman does show up.
They're gonna make him do this till he's 90.
But he's a savage monster going around butchering people, which is pretty sick. And he recognises Jean and they have an intimate moment together, but I mean, Jean is in fact a child at this point. Directed by Bryan Singer. Wise choice, guys, wise choice.
What'd you do to him?
Threatened to call the cops on the nonce. The production design is way better than it deserves to be. But why does every superhero movie ever have to involve a disaster on a bridge? Is there no other landmarks in this city? There's a really annoying moment where a car is hurling towards Storm and she just lies there, the useless twat. This is the issue. The film has cool visuals and the actors are trying their best, but it's so goddamn boring. Nothing means anything. It's just meaningless destruction because it's a superhero movie, so they have to. Jean just stares on while all of the important characters do all of the work. Who created this character? She's the X-Men's Hawkeye. Oh yeah. Yeah, we're so concerned that Xavier's gonna die. It's a prequel! And what's the point in Moira? I mean, what does she add? And why was this movie made? But it does answer the thrilling question. How did Xavier go bald? The movie sucks, but at this point, what else are you really expecting? After 16 years of consistently sucking with one bright spot, is it really any surprise that this one is also crap? Once again, the acting is great, not you, as are the visuals and production value, but it's also dull, overlong. Isaac is wasted on a thankless role that gives him nothing interesting to do. It retreads everything we've seen for the last 7 movies, but I also can't say it's the worst of them either. It's just another boring, disposable X-Men film. It's definitely not good, but as bad superhero movies go, I've seen much worse. Take that for what little it's worth.